You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, we've been covering the drama in Georgia when it comes to voter suppression being advanced by Republicans. Voting rights groups are now calling on major companies in Georgia, like Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines, to oppose voter suppression efforts by Republican lawmakers. The various organizations, including Black Voters Matter, New Georgia Project, the Georgia NAACP, and others, have launched a campaign on social media and local news outlets this week asking for corporations to take a stand against legislation being enacted to curb turnout by black voters. Earlier this week, the House voted for a massive voter suppression bill. The Senate also is taking up their own bill. Also joined in this effort, and we saw it today, the NBA is speaking out, the NBA Players Association and LeBron James Group as well. Georgia, folks, is ground zero this year because of voter suppression. What we're seeing is what has happened in North Carolina. And trust me, if Republicans in Georgia are successful, you're going to see the same thing happen in other states. Joining me right now, the co-founders of Black Voters Matter, Cliff Albright, LaTosha Brown. Glad to have both of you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Here's the deal, LaTosha. In North Carolina, when they passed that transgender bathroom bill, all of these different companies said, we're not bringing NBA All-Star Game. We're not bringing businesses to North Carolina. I went to North Carolina when they were targeting HBCUs. And I said the same people who were standing up against that bill should be standing up for HBCUs, but also against voter suppression. We don't seem to have the same corporate support for issues like voter suppression as we do issues supportive of LGBT. This, what I think y'all are doing, is critical because these are the people who are funding legislators and who are bringing billions into the state.
Oh, without question. You know, the issue I think that was really interesting is just as you said, in North Carolina, what you saw is you saw corporations and some businesses stand up and say, no, we're not going to have our conferences here. We're pulling out. We saw the exact opposite, you know, in Georgia, because Georgia had planned on doing business as usual. And many of the companies, what we know is oftentimes they're straddling the fence. You know, what I often like to say is that democracy is not the burden for black people to bear, that ultimately what we saw is a historic turnout for black voters in this state. And now it seems to be this punitive effort. And we know that it's directed at marginalizing our vote. And what we're saying is that we expect those companies that we go in every single day as workers, as we sit on their boards, that we actually consume their products, we patronize them, that we expect that they will stand with us. That part of what we have to do is we actually have to put the pressure on literally as we're seeing companies. We know that it can make a difference. The fact that we're seeing that many bills to come out of over 91 bills be sponsored in Georgia says that there's not a lot of corporate pressure in this state. And what we do know is where we've seen corporate pressure over the years, particularly aligned with community pressure, that it has made a difference. And so that's the same expectation that we have for the state of Georgia.
The thing here, Cliff, that's important here, like, for instance, at Coca-Cola, their political action committee had already stopped funding various folks. We also saw what took place after January 6th. But that's only a small piece here. This is where the corporations got to use their voice. I go back to 1964 when Dr. King got the Nobel Peace Prize. And when white business leaders in Atlanta said, we are not going to attend a reception honoring Dr. King, it was the mayor of Atlanta went to the former CEO of Coca-Cola and met with him. He then called in the then CEO, and then they announced, Coca-Cola doesn't need Atlanta. Atlanta needs Coca-Cola. If y'all do not show up and support Dr. King, we will move Coca-Cola out of Atlanta. They sold out that particular reception, and every single one of those businesses showed up. That's the kind of power that Coca-Cola and Delta and others can use to make it clear to these Republicans in the legislature, you play this game here, you're messing with the money.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Roland. We're a long way away from the Coca-Cola of that era, right? Because this Coca-Cola has been absolutely silent. At the end of the day, what we know is that if these companies, Coca-Cola, Delta, UPS, if these companies wanted to shut down this voter suppression, it would be shut down. Heck, not even if all of them did it. If one of them did it, as you said, if Coca-Cola took a stance, if Delta took a stance, it would be shut down. I see, and you all have up the ad that we put out. That was the full-page ad that we ran in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, as well as in 20 other newspapers across the state. If these businesses, what we're asking them to do, and the same thing that they did in North Carolina, they actually did it in Georgia when Georgia was trying to do its version of the so-called religious freedom and anti-abortion and anti-LGBT, all these things. They came together and they took a stance. We're asking them to take the similar stance. In fact, what we're really asking them to do is to do the same thing that they would do if these were bills that were attacking their industry. If this was a bill that was an anti-beverage bill, right? If this was a bill that said you can't sell any beverages in the schools, right? What would Coca-Cola do? They would use the full force of the political and economic influence in order to squash that bill. We're asking them to take at least as much of a stance, the same level of a stance and the same level of aggression and influence that they would use if this was an attack on their business. They need to do, because it's an attack on our voters, on our community, and on this very democracy. We need to see that same type of energy that they show when they're trying to influence their industry legislation, as on a piece of legislation like this that influences the consumers as well as the workers that support their company.
And look, LaTosha, we know what's going on here. This is a direct assault on black people. It is a direct assault on progressives. And if you're Republican, if you want to compete, fine. Hey, put your ideas up. But don't try to all of a sudden change the rules because you lost the presidential race in Georgia and you lost 2 U.S. Senate races. Hey, put up or shut up. They want to cheat to win, to outlaw the handing out of water and food while folks are voting, making that a crime? Come on.
You know, it's really interesting. As we are, both Cliff and I are on our way this weekend to Selma, Alabama. This weekend marks the 56th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, which led ultimately in Selma to Montgomery March that led to the Voting Rights Act as part of a celebration and commemoration of the voting rights movement. Here we are, 56 years later, and we're still continuing to fight for the right of vote for black people in this country to make sure that our rights are protected. What we're saying is that this will not be business as usual. Oftentimes when we see issues and the legislation that impacts the black community around racial issues, we will see some of the companies have some soft support. They may provide a grant or two, but what we're saying is this is a fundamental issue that its time has come, that to continue that they have the power, as so do we, that literally we're going to leverage our powers as consumers, as an economic base in this country. Right now, that black folks, that literally if you took us and we were a nation, we would be the 12th highest income, largest nation in the world in terms of based on our buying power. So we have a tremendous amount of economic power. We no longer can continue down this road that every time actually that we show up and use and demonstrate our civic right, that in some way that we've got to be punished, that there has to be something punitive. Yet those people, those companies that we support and we stand with them, that they don't stand with us. No, this is a new time. This is a new era. What we know is that in order for us to go forward, it is going to have to be some tremendous change. And that this is 56 years. It is a shame that we're at this place right now, but we will continue to be this place until the ecosystem, until we make sure that we're exerting enough pressure that folks really recognize how serious we are about this. There shall be no, we're going to go back to 1965 and we got to march across another bridge again. We fought that fight. So where we are right now is standing in this space that we're calling all that say that they're standing with us, those that signed these pledges that say they were for racial equity, those that say that they're standing with the black community that actually are making millions of dollars off our hard-earned dollars, that in our work, that this is an issue that is not even just rooted in racism, but anti-democracy. And so that's why we're calling the question. We're calling the question, you know, Pete Seeger had a song in the 60s that they used to sing, and it used to say, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We're actually putting that question. Which side are you on? Because this isn't, to me, this isn't even a partisan issue. It should not be a partisan issue. This is a basic civil right and a democracy issue. And we expect those that say that they believe and support democracy to stand with us.
Cliff, I always tell people, if you want to change anything in America, follow the money. follow the money. And for all these white folks out there who are sitting here, want to be silent on this, guess what? We don't have to buy companies' products. We can use other products and also put pressure on their suppliers and others. And so bottom line is this here. If Republicans want to play this game, okay, we can play it too. Because Dr. King, on April 3rd, 1968, and I keep telling people this, y'all got to go listen to the whole speech. Stop listening to the bottom of the speech when he said, I've been to the mountaintop. He talked about redistribute the pain. He talked about economic reciprocity. He talked about what needs to happen. In fact, it was interesting, he mentioned Coca-Cola in that particular speech. I got lots of friends at Coca-Cola, but here's the deal. This is where we need companies like Coke, like Delta, like every major company in Georgia to make it clear, y'all messing with the money if y'all mess with the vote.
That's right. And I want to point out, because I'm glad you raised the point about following the money, because at the end of the day, it's not just that these companies have been silent on these issues. These companies are actually complicit in these issues because they've been giving donations. They've been giving political donations to some of these same legislators that are pushing this anti-voting, this anti-democracy, this anti-blackness. They've been giving them donations over the years. And so it's not just that they've been on the sidelines. They've actually already been in the game. They've actually been complicit in this process. And so what we're asking them to do, and it's a shame, really, you know, that we even have to resort to this, because at the end of the day, we're people, you know, who aren't in favor of this role of money in politics, right? We're people that we would love to see campaign finance reform, right? We'd love to see things like public financing. We don't want to see, you know, these elected officials either at the city, state, or federal level spending all their time on the phone making donation calls, right? So we don't want to see this corruptive influence of money in politics. But guess what? As long as they're playing in the game, then they need to be playing on the side of democracy. They need to be playing on the side of black voters that have helped to save this democracy. They need to be playing on the side, like King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's the side that they need to be leaning towards. But right now, they're leaning towards the side where they are funding the very people that are trying to take our votes away. And so we are following the money. We're putting the pressure on these companies. We've got actions on our website. You can go to our website. You can go to our social media. Black Voters MTR, that's Facebook, Twitter, IG, and you can follow our actions and go to our page. You can make the phone calls yourselves. We got the phone numbers there for the CEO of Coke. Everybody have a Coke and a smile. Let's make some phone calls to the CEO of Coke, to UPS, to Delta. We got all those phone numbers right there. I called up Coca-Cola today to try to talk to the CEO, and I got a staff member, an employee, who no matter what I said, all she kept doing was reading their official statement. It was actually kind of insulting. And we believe that the more people get involved and make these phone calls and they engage, they bump heads up against this type of resistance and negligence, then that's going to make people be even more motivated and get people even more involved. And so we got all that information on our website, on our social media. Everybody listening to this right now has a role to play. Everybody we touch, we want to turn into an organizer.
Put the graphic back up. And so, first of all, you have on that Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, Southern Company, Home Depot, UPS, AFLAC, Georgia Chamber of Commerce, Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, Georgia Black Chamber of Commerce. Let's deal right there with Southern Company. They spend a lot of money at black events like Essence and others. All the companies on there, what companies have y'all gotten a response directly from?
Let me say this. Let me say one word about the Southern Company. You know what's interesting is that Southern Company, you know, actually is the largest funder of the GOP of Republican legislators in the state of Georgia. And so here it is, a company that we are literally giving our hard-working money to, and they're actually supporting this side that have been coming out with legislation centered around the big lie to actually disenfranchise us. That out of all of those companies on there, what I do think is one of the most egregious is the Southern Company that literally provide the Southern Company, Georgia Power, Alabama Power, those power companies. Matter of fact, even if you're looking at this and you're not in the state of Georgia, a portion of your resources, Alabama Power, is a part of the Southern Company. And so we've got to use and leverage our power that we hold these people accountable, that any of these companies, none of these companies, personally, I know that there's been some phone calls that have been made. There's a lot of activity I know going around and concern we haven't heard directly from those companies, but the bottom line is, if you look at the ad, we're asking the question, we're calling the question, we're saying, will you stand with the voters of Georgia? That should be a slam dunk. This is not an issue where we're trying to literally take the company down. What we're saying is you have the opportunity in this moment to actually stand with the community that actually supports you, that literally works, that we have workers that work with you, that actually provide even management and even serve on your boards. So if you look at the ad, that should be a slam dunk. There should have been all kinds of not only statements, but really powerful phone calls that said, we're standing with you. Maybe you didn't know it, but we're actually for voting rights. The silence in itself says a lot.
Cliff, final comment.
Yeah, we just want everybody to get involved. At the end of the day, this is the deal. It seems daunting, but we know that we're going to win. It was daunting 2 years ago when they stole an election from us in Georgia, and people said, "Oh, what are you going to do? How are you going to get black voters to come out?" And 2 years later, what we do, we shocked the country because black voters came out in big numbers. So what we've proven is we can out-organize them, y'all. There's no question. That's why they're so mad. That's why they're big mad, is because at the end of the day, we out-organize them. We out-organize them in the election, and we're going to out-organize them on this, because at the end of the day, can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
All right. Folks, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.